Hello there, we're back in the garden. Bit breezy, but we're back in the garden. Now, why are we back in the garden again, say Phil? Well, because it's been about 5 years since we did the top 100 video. In fact, when this video goes out, it will be about 5 years to the day where it started. And I always want to do like a little kind of wrap up afterwards, like a little just kind of, hey, here's the top 100 video games, here's a few stats about it, here's a few thoughts about it, here's a few this and a few that. And again, in typical fashion around these parts, I never did. But then I thought, well, now we're 5 years away, why not? It makes sense to do a little catch up about the details. So yeah, I've got some stats on here. We nearly blew the camera over, but we're fine. So we're going to look back at a few bits and bobs and go through a few details. But first of all, before we get into that, let's look at some of the omissions from that list that we did. Because a few things looking back that are like, why aren't these on there? And it does seem a bit weird, but how I essentially did it was I opened up like a blank spreadsheet and then just started naming video games. Thought you were going to go then. Just naming video games until I got to about 100, and I thought, well, if I don't remember it, it's probably not going to be worth remembering, if that makes sense. Like, it won't have made like an impact on me, so if it's not on the list, yeah, whatever. So I went through that list. I just started naming games, put them into an order. That was the list. But there are a few things there where you kind of look back and go, why isn't that on there? One thing is Metal Gear. Not a single Metal Gear game on there, which, you know, I played all through Metal Gear Solid back in the old PlayStation. As we know, didn't really have a PlayStation, so didn't play the sequel, didn't really play Snake Eater. Played 4 on the PS3, got into that, but yeah, didn't put it on the list. Didn't go on the list. I don't know whether or not it was having the having Snatcher at number 1 kind of filled the kind of Kojima hole on the list. Who knows? Virtua Tennis was on there either. Arcade or Dreamcast, probably would have gone with the Dreamcast version because that's the one I played loads when I had my Dreamcast back in the day. Yeah, loved it. Cracking game. Didn't put it on the list. Keeping it Virtua Fighter didn't go on there either. Didn't go on the list at all. I don't know whether it's kind of... Virtua Fighter doesn't feel like a proper multiplayer game in the same way that something like a Tekken or Street Fighter 2 does. Always feels like if you're good at Virtua Fighter and your friends aren't, they have no fun. Whereas with Street Fighter and Tekken, the game's a bit looser, so that fun can be had by other people. So yeah, I think those two get more on the list because they're a bit more fun to play with other people, whereas Virtua Fighter is very much, yeah, you need that competitive edge to make it a really cracking game. So yeah, didn't go on there. Fire Emblem 3DS, was it Fire Emblem Awakening? Whichever one that one was, cracking, loved it on 3DS. That was a belter. Didn't add it. What a fool. And it's not really an omission, but I do think I did Street Fighter dirty because it was number 24th place on the list, and the more I ruminate on that, it should have been top 10. It should really have been in that top 10 list because yeah, I love Street Fighter. Don't know why they never put it in the top 10. Anyway, let's move on to what we're actually here for, which is some stats. So we're going to crack on with that now. Now, first stat is what is the oldest game on the list, which is an easy stat to do. It's Spy Hunter from 1982. Hello, it's Phil from the edit here, just to step in with a bit of a mea culpa here because Spy Hunter didn't come out in 1982. That is a complete fabrication because for some reason that's what it was showing on the spreadsheet I made when I was going through and getting the arcade flyers for these little bits. This is Spy Hunter brackets 1983, and I was like, oh no, that's yeah. So it's actually 1983, so it's a joint second oldest game along with Star Wars. I think Spy Hunter might get it a bit, but I'm not really sure. Point is, should have checked before I, finished doing the script. Didn't. Just went for it, and yeah, hands up. There's a later one as well where I talk about Yakuza 0 coming out in 2017, and that's for the Western release, not the original Japanese release, which was 2015. So, yeah. Sorry, we're going to go back to the idiot talking in the garden in the wind and let him carry on for a bit longer. Ciao. Next to that was Star Wars from '83, so that kind of really early arcade period. But Spy Hunter's the one that is the earliest game on my list, which, yeah, cracking game. Newest games now. There's a few from the same year, basically. It's 2017, and we've got Yakuza 0, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, and Mario Kart 8, all from 2017. Which, you know, looking at it, you put aside that Mario Kart 8 is a re-release, and Breath of the Wild is across two systems. You know, it was Wii U and Switch. That first year of releases on the Switch, man, some bangers in that list. It's insane. Insane, like, you know, just banger after banger for a good year or so. Which, I don't know if that's going to happen on the Switch too. We've not had many games so far, but, you know, if it does happen on the Switch too, it'll probably be like 4 times as expensive as it was back then. Am I right? Yeah, moving on. Yeah, let's get into the meat of it. Let's look at the most popular game genre that was on the list. And it's driving games with 12. Closely followed by action at 11. Now, I know action is a rubbish genre definition, but, you know, it hoovers up a lot of different things. Like within that, on this list, we've got Ape Escape, Die Hard Trilogy, Gauntlet, GTA 5, Luigi's Mansion, Mass Destruction, Pursuit Force, Saturn Bomberman, Spider-Man 2, the movie, the game, Super Monkey Ball, and Yakuza 0. So there's some bangers on there, and they do cross genres. You know, what do you put Bomberman as? It's action-y. It's a rubbish title, I know. Like, action RPGs are not a great one either. Driving the games as well, I mean, that's quite vague. That goes across from like Micro Machines to Sega Rally, so that's quite widespread, but at least you are, you know, driving a vehicle the majority of the time. I would point out though that if you smushed the various 2D fighting and beating up genres together, you get like 13 of those. So I think that's the real winner here, like fighting games in general. If you put them under one roof, that would be the most popular genre in my top 100 list. So next, we're going to go for popular year. Which is partying like it's 1999, because it is indeed 1999. Yeah, I mean, that was a good year. I mean, that was also during my peak video game period where I'm just playing games all the time. So yeah, it makes sense. And there's a lot of cracking games that year. The games that made it from that year were Ape Escape, Driver, Power Stone, Ridge Racer Type 4, Roll Cage, SNK versus Capcom, Card Fighters Clash. Lost my pace. Let's scroll down, there we go. Soul Calibur and Worms Armageddon. I mean, that's a pretty good year of games, right? There's at least 3 or 4 all-timers on there. And they're just the ones I can remember for that year. There's probably loads more for that year as well. Cracking year. But what games... that was a terrible line read. But what about the machines we'll be playing those games on from that year? We want to know what's the most popular of those, right? And the top machine is in fact a draw between the arcade and the Sega Saturn, which, yeah, that feels right. You've got my favourite console in the Sega Saturn, and you've got the arcade, which I know isn't technically a console, but it is a genre itself of machines, and the arcade's brilliant. So yeah, we're going to go with that. So Mega Drive and PS1 joint second, makes sense. So there's only one SNES and there's no NES titles on there because I didn't have any of them, so they weren't like a big part of my kind of gaming journey. Oh, terrible word. My gaming life growing up, because I always had like an Amigas, Game Boys, that sort of thing. So all the kind of big SNES games, all the big NES games, didn't play them because I didn't have them, unless they got converted somewhere else. Across all Sega machines, we can add those together. There's 25 games across all the Sega machines, and 23 from Nintendo machines. So, you know, Sega just wins out left, right, and centre. You probably add a couple of arcade games onto that Sega list as well. So there's like, you know, Sega's the best. To just confirm the arcade games there, we have Afterburner, Daytona, Double Dragon, Final Fight, Gauntlet, Operation Wolf, Outrun, Spy Hunter, Star Wars, and Street Fighter 2. Saturn games are Die Hard Trilogy, Guardian Heroes, Mass Destruction, Nights into Dreams, Panzer Dragoon Saga, Saturn Bomberman, obviously, Sega Rally, Street Fighter Alpha 2, Virtual Cop, and Virtual On. There you go. So there's a fact there. Now we've got Street Fighter on there twice. So we've got Street Fighter 2 under the arcade and Street Fighter Alpha 2, which I think was an arcade game as well, but on the Saturn. So yeah, it should be on the top 10 if that's the case, because it's on there twice. Final Fantasy is another franchise on there twice, but then that's for 7 and Tactics, which are different genres of strategy games. It's like turn-based role-playing, strategy, RPG. They are a bit different. We've got a few Marios as well, Golden Coins, Mario Maker, and Mario Odyssey. So again, another spread of the Mario oeuvre of different kind of Mario games. And 2 Zeldas. So we've got Link's Awakening and Breath of the Wild. So again, that's like 2 ends of the Zelda spectrum, very 2D, very 3D. So Street Fighter is the only one where it's like feels like there's 2 very similar games out of that franchise on the list. So I think Street Fighters should have been in the top 10. It should have been in the top 10. But anyway, I know what you're saying now. Phil, it's been 5 years since you did that list. Is there anything new that you'd put on there? I did have a think. About a few things that would go on there, and I think like Vampire Survivors is one. Would definitely be on there now. Played that loads. Might be the reason why I bought my Steam Deck. Not any of the kind of AAA games you can play on it. No, I just want to play Vampire Survivors, and this was before it came out on the Switch, so it's a bit out of date now, but that's a banger of a game. Armored Core Fires Rubicon, really got into that, even though I've not really got that far into it. I still love it. It's still really good. I mean, I bounced off Dark Souls so many times, but you give me big giant robots to play with, and Phil will be there. Phil will show up for that because Phil loves big giant robots. So that one's a good thing. Speaking of big giant robots, EDF. I like an EDF game will get on there as well. I had a lot of fun in the last few years playing 4.1 and 5 for my youngest, just shooting lots of big ants and machine guns. So that will be on there as well. And you know what? It's not what it once was, I don't think, but like Fall Guys will be on there because, man, for those COVID months, Fall Guys was like, it just crossed everybody, didn't it? Because they threw it out on PSN and everybody was playing it, everybody was streaming it, everybody was getting into it. Fall Guys was a great game for that period, and yeah, I'll put that into my top 100 list now. We're getting there, so I don't know what will drop off. I haven't considered what would be dropping off for these to go on there, but there's got to be a bit of natural movement, you know what I mean? A bit of natural movement. And yeah, that was it. So that's it. That's a little kind of wrap up of the 5 years since my top 100 video games video, which is still watched on the channel. They're still there. There's one, like the whole thing combined, which is like 4 hours if you really, really need something to put on the background while you're at work. But yeah, we've had, a little bit of fun looking back at it. We talked about a lot of Ace games. We remembered a few things along the way. And we did a few bar charts as well. So pouring one out there for the Spreadsheet Mafia. You know who you are, my guys and girls. We all have a spreadsheet.